Welcome to this latest webinar from Devereux Kelly Associates, entitled From Surviving to Thriving, dealing with the burning platform. I'm Ian Jones. I'm the Managing Director of Devereux Kelly Associates. And I guess how companies handle the coronavirus and its aftermath could be the imperative of our times. With near-term survival the only agenda for some at the moment, I guess the toughest leadership test is now looming for many, and that's about rethinking the organisation in an environment where a vaccine has yet to be found, and the global economy is clearly struggling. But I guess it's important that we're clear. It's impossible to know what will happen, but it is possible to consider the lessons of the past, and on that basis to think constructively about the future. That's why I'm delighted to be joined today by someone who has significant experience of using the crisis of a burning platform to successfully lead, design and deliver transformational change, and that's Dermot Toberty. So welcome, Dermot. Thanks for joining us today. Can we start with you telling us a little bit about yourself, please, Dermot?
Yeah. Well, my background is that when I left school, I trained to be an accountant, and then I worked my way through various financial roles, and eventually I joined what was called the Post Office, and then joined what was called Royal Mail, still is Royal Mail, and I did a variety of financial roles in Royal Mail, and then worked my way through, and one day I got a phone call to ask would I like to be the program director of the finance transformation program, and then that was a job that I did and enjoyed for a couple of years. And then straight after that, I ran the shared service centre for a short time, and then the last 15 years of my career, I was asked would I take on the equivalent job of doing it within the world of HR, and I set up the HR shared service centre, and then up to a couple of years ago, I ran that. So I've seen a whole load of transformational change to different audiences, both within finance, within HR, and as you'll appreciate, right across the whole organisation, because when you work in HR, you sit at the heart of all change.
So you mentioned the role you played leading the transformation of, well, not just the finance function, the HR. You were active across most of the sort of back office services, and of course created shared services in the form of the finance and HR functions, which I guess were a spotlight for many other organisations that were looking to go down that track, and they learned a lot from your experiences and that of your team. So can you tell me a little bit more about why they were necessary, what was the burning platform, what you were trying to achieve, and I guess how you achieved it?
Yeah. Well, the background, if we talk about the finance one to start with, and I'll come on to the HR one, was basically that our then stakeholder, the government, said support services were too fat, that there were too many people doing too many things the wrong way, and it needed to modernise. And the then finance director actually commissioned a study on the back of that. And then after a short period, he said that he wanted to lead the change. And that was big, and that was bold, and that was ambitious. And he started to lead that change. And after probably about a year or 18 months, he became a bit concerned that actually the change wasn't starting to happen. And he asked me, would I go in and have a little look to see why it is that change wasn't happening? What had gone wrong, or when was it going to happen? And his words to me were, Dermot, every month I sit at a board meeting, and every month everybody says to me, well, Richard, next month. Well, Richard, next month. Yep, next month. And as a group of finance professionals, everybody saw the logic and what needed to be done, but actually, sadly, lacked the courage to do it. And and when I did my small scale review, the big thing that the program had lots of things going wrong with it, but the biggest single thing that it didn't have, and it was an important one, was who was looking after the people. Yes, we could all see what we needed to do in terms of financial reporting. Yes, we all wanted to simplify. Yes, we all wanted to standardise. Yes, we all wanted to centralise. We could all sign up to that. But who was looking after the people? Who was actually talking about the people? And of course, that was the main stumbling block, that it was the people. Anyway, fast forward, new team with some expertise within the people domain. All of a sudden, the whole thing started to come to life. And we delivered that program, and it provided a foundation for the finance organisation to go on and prosper and develop further. And what it also did was it equipped a whole gang of people with some fantastic skills that were then taken to other functions, including myself, because the next function then to go through something similar was HR, because HR could always find a great excuse not to do anything. Because sitting at the heart of all change in the organisation, it was never a good time to reorganise HR. Unfortunately, we've got a new HR director who came in, and he was willing to take a gamble with me. And the gamble was bringing an accountant in to try and actually develop a transformational change program within the world of HR. And we did it, and we delivered it, more or less the same. It was probably a lot more complicated because everybody felt as though they were doing a much more important job. And we had a whole range of different things that everybody seemed to think was dead important, but the reality was we needed to get cost out, and we needed to get cost out fast. But the most important thing that we always had to do was, never mind looking back and thinking about cost and this, that and the other, but was to try and look ahead. Well, what was the legacy going to be? Because any fool can take cost out. There's nothing difficult about taking cost out. Every bone in my body tells me, you make a career out of taking cost out. You can shave a bit here, you can take a bit there, you can be fairly brutal and all the rest of it. But the thing is, what are you going to leave behind? And one of the best pieces of advice that I think that I ever got was before we embarked on the huge change program within finance. And it was from an older person who said, don't forget, you'll be judged on your next reorganisation on how well you do this one. Mm-hmm. And I think it's like a lot of wisdoms that you pick up along through life, along the road. You haven't got a clue what it means at the time, but when you look back and you reflect on it, actually, it was extremely wise words, because that is exactly how you are judged. You know, the people will forget the words that you used, but they'll certainly remember how you made them feel. Yes. And if you don't make them feel good, and you don't make them feel that they're able to understand, or even, dare I say it as crudely as, participate, and feel that they're leaving something better behind, even though they might be about to exit your organisation, you know, that will come back and haunt you.
Indeed. So we'll come back to the people aspect, if we may, in a moment, Dermot. Just on the I guess the benefits you've highlighted there, the importance of I guess not just a one-dimensional focus on the benefits of transformation in the form of how much cost we take out. You know, you've alluded to non-financial benefits there that are quite critical, really, to sustainability of what you're designing and deploying. So, yeah, can you give me a flavour of the type of sort of non-financial benefits that you would have created under the transformations you described?
Yeah, I think, the first thing that I would say is that we completely reorganised the financial structure of Royal Mail and took out probably around about 25 to 30% of the jobs over the space of 18 months. Yep. We completely reorganised that, and the post office and parcel force worldwide moved at great speed, but the organisation never ever suffered. It never suffered in the sense that, you know, that we had to see, oh, the finances have gone down the tubes, we've missed month-end reporting schedules, we've done this, oh, look at the level of debt that's gone on. But what we were able to do by the methodology that we used of simplification and standardization was equip the organisation to then go ahead at the end of that and actually use that as a springboard to develop better financial systems for the organisation. But what you also did was equip a whole bunch of people, around about 100, with a skill set, and dare I say it, an injection of courage that said you can actually go into this organisation, this massive organisation called Royal Mail, and here is a methodology, here is an approach that says that you can deliver change. You can deliver change in that organisation. And not only can you deliver change in that organisation, you could deliver change in another organisation as well, should you choose to go that particular way. And some of those people went with me into the world of HR, and we proved that that was very much the case. And what we were able to do within the world of HR was, again, modernise, improve, starting from a baseline which arguably was 2 to 3 years behind everybody else, and quickly accelerate and develop, again, simplification, standardisation, and help people get to the point that they could actually then develop a new HR system that then was the logical extension, that then could give even more benefits for the organisation. You know, our legacy from, you know, very humble beginnings, where lots of people said that we're going to fail in the world of finance, was very much that. You know, but people were able to develop rewarding careers on the back of it.
Yeah, and I liken transformation, successful transformation, to building planes in the sky. You know, you're changing the cockpit, you're changing the engine, you're changing the seating arrangement. You know, you're trying new things whilst you're trying to keep the plane up in the sky. And you know, quite clearly, you did that because you still had people to pay, you still had employees to pay. When you moved to the HR transformation, you still had to keep the whole of that function operating whilst you were fundamentally transforming it. I'd also add that I was one of the fortunate people to work alongside you during the Finance Excellence Programme, Dermot. And you know, the thing that stood out for me was, from very early on, was that common purpose. Very, very clear goals. We knew what we wanted to achieve. You created a focused team, and you also enabled rapid decision making through, you know, very effective delegation and, I guess, trust. But also underpinned that with training and development to help us learn new skills and apply those at pace during our time on that program. If I go back to the challenges, you alluded to some of the challenges there, Dermot. One of which was the people. You know, and again, one of the things that I learned very early on during my sort of journey through the world of transformation was, you can have the best systems and the best processes, but if you don't take the people with you, you're destined for failure. So can you tell me a little bit more about how you sort of, I guess, let's take the HR transformation, how you engaged the wider organisation, which what was about 140, 150,000 people in the case of Royal Mail.
A huge mountain to climb. But what we've also got to remember is they're in an organisation like Royal Mail. A lot of the people take the processes for granted. They do take the processes for granted, particularly the users take the processes for granted. You've got in a normal week, you've got over 100,000 postmen and women that get paid weekly. 100. Now, if they don't get paid weekly, that's a fundamental problem. And also, the other aspect of it is, a significant part of that weekly pay is variable pay. So as you go through the transformation and you have to actually start to think through it properly, you have to think to yourself, you can't just do this in one big move. You've got to really start to take, you know, the whole organisation with you on that particular journey, and identify where are your pinch points and what are the things that you can do. So I guess what we did was, on the back of the finance transformation, first and foremost was we centralised payroll. And by centralising payroll, we just got our arms around it. And what we're able to do was actually start to try and crunch it together and develop a central hub, a central site, along with a number of satellites where you could actually run payroll. But the important thing was that you were able to actually just progressively roll it into the new centre. Just not try new systems, not try anything elaborate. But we always knew if you wanted to try and shake the organisation and upset the organisation, you get payroll wrong. Mm-hmm. But if you can just actually set up a steady little drumbeat and just nicely just progress and develop your methodology and roll your payroll in, and once you can establish your payroll, the organisation can start and feel confident about you. They can start and feel good about you in a bizarre sort of way because they did it and you didn't notice. And I think the thing with any organisation is, when you're on the inside and you're trying to deliver the change, you are the person that can see the vision. The people around you can see the vision, but your customers probably can't. And you could probably see your customers probably not that bothered about it anyway, because what I'm bothered about is I just want to be paid. And whether it be done in Sheffield or whether it be done in Swansea, it doesn't matter. I prefer to go to a window in Swansea, but as long as I get paid properly, I'm quite happy for it to be come through Sheffield. So we did the obvious stuff, centralising payroll and then having a platform. But the benefit of having the platform is you've then got the experienced people around who can understand the methodology that you've used. So when you start thinking about newer models of how to run HR along the lines of business partners and experts, you've then got your cornerstone and your foundation in place to start to build on the back of that. So when we then started to think about doing other HR functions, such as the centralisation of learning, the centralisation of recruitment, the centralisation of advice and support, you then had the methodology, you then had things that you could do, and you then had a way of working that you could actually develop. The important thing throughout any form of transformation is that whoever leads the charge has a boss that believes in them. If you haven't got a boss that believes in you, the rest of it just goes to dust. And if you've got somebody that's willing to back you, understand you, fight your corner, drive the things forward, hey, it opens doors, it works wonders. The journey is really, really important, because everybody, or in my experiences anyway, both finance and HR and across the wider organisation, people understand what needs to be done. It doesn't come as any great surprise. But what you have to understand is there's got to be something in it for them. They have to have a voice in it, and they have to kind of understand that it's a journey worth coming on with you.
You touched on the importance of the sponsor there, as I would describe it in sort of project management terms, and being active, being part of the project or the program from the outset, and I guess having the courage of conviction to really support you through the hard times and not just step away and start pointing the finger. So lots of great results, lots of learning along the way, lots of good advice there, Dermot, for other people embarking on transformation. So thank you for that. So thank you, Dermot. That was terrific hearing about your experiences at Royal Mail, leading that transformation of the finance and HR functions, and creating those shared services. You talked about them being big, bold, and ambitious. Quite clearly they were. But what I've clearly understood there is that you did have that common purpose. You had clear goals. You had sponsorship around you, which was very important in terms of overcoming issues and securing rapid decisions through that process, and effectively replacing corporate bureaucracy. So some great lessons learned there, and the importance of people at the heart of it. I think that's the thing that really resonated with me. So thank you for your time. We'll get together again, Dermot, and next time round I'd like to sort of explore a little bit more about how you take those insights, those experiences, and offer those as a gift to other leaders who are obviously dealing with the crisis facing the world today in terms of COVID-19, and I guess how they're bouncing back to create a thriving organisation for the organisations that they are leading. So thanks again. Thanks to everybody for listening.